All right, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of Prequel, Origin Stories and Inflection Points by Goodie Nation. I am Joey Womack, founder and CEO, and you're in for a treat, good people. We have a bunch of dope founders who are going to tell some dope stories about how they came to be. They're going to answer the question, how did they get here? How did they get here in starting their company? Here's why we think it's important for you to kind of get to understand their origin stories from a Goodie Nation perspective. At Goodie Nation, we're focused on closing what we call the relationship gap. So this is the lack of connection between founders and people like yourself, people that are influential in tech. So what that means typically when they don't have that type of connection, it means they have lack of access to capital. But it also means they have lack of access to things like customers, to the media, to talent, to hire, to partners, all leads to higher levels of stress and an increased likelihood of them not achieving their potential. And that's what we do not want for anybody, right? And so as they tell their origin stories today, I think that you'll be able to see a little bit of yourself in them, right? You'll see a little bit of yourself in them. And if the spirit comes over you, perhaps you'll figure out a way to support them and help them realize their dream. So here's how today's going to go. We're going to do some quick introductions, and then after we go through the introductions from each of them, we'll jump into their 4 to 5 or so minute stories, and at the end I have a little bit of an ask for you as well. So this again is a very special edition because it's for the Google for Startups Black Founders Fund 3. These amazing recipients that are doing just some amazing things, right? So they're Google back now. We're also asking you to back them as well with your support and whatever way you kind of define that, right? I'll have some tips on that at the end. So let's get right to it. We're going to do some quick intros, and we'll kick it off with Kayla. Tell them a little bit about just your name of the company, where you're checking in from in the world, and also a quick description of the company itself.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Kayla Wright-Jackson. I'm calling in from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm the co-founder and CEO at Transition, where we are reshaping the way essential healthcare professionals enter the workforce.
Awesome. Kameron? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm Kameron Norwood. I'm a COO and co-founder of Packdash. I'm in Tucson, Arizona right now. We also have a Chicago location as well. We are in 3PL for small, medium-sized businesses, helping them to get their products to wherever they want to get them, direct to consumer, retailers, or even Amazon, Walmart.com.
Nice. Reva?
Hi, I'm Reva McPollom, and I'm the founder and CEO of LessonBee. I'm a millennial mom, a social entrepreneur, and ed tech expert. And LessonBee is reinventing the health class experience in schools and districts across the country via culturally responsive online health education and social emotional learning. And I'm based in Mount Vernon, New York.
Awesome. Erin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Rowe. I'm the founder and CEO of AllSpring. We're putting a career coach in every employee's pocket, and I'm currently calling in from DC, where my family is, but typically spend time in San Francisco, the Bay Area.
Awesome. April?
Hello, everyone. My name is April Johnson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Happied, calling in from Washington, D.C. And Happied is automated event planning software for corporate teams and groups, putting your team engagement, client development, and community engagement on autopilot.
Awesome. So let's get right into these stories. Let's understand how these dope founders came to be. So, Kayla, I'm going to kick it to you. What's that story?
All right, great. Well, receiving care when it's needed is very near and dear to my heart. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and I was a competitive volleyball athlete until I injured my back and went through years of rehabilitation. Around that same time, my grandpa had 3 hip surgeries, which resulted in him needing consistent care and rehab. He did not receive the care he needed due to the VA having a shortage of staff. He later passed away from a hip infection that could have been prevented if he had the adequate post-op care. That's when I became obsessed with health and furious with the system. I obtained a bachelor's degree from MSU Denver to become a kinesiologist, who then worked alongside athletic trainers and physical therapists, assisting people of all ages with their rehabilitation and healing. I found many broken areas within the healthcare system, and I decided I wanted to become an administrator. So that way I could make changes to improve management and patient care. I received my Master's of Health Administration degree from MSU Denver and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. While I was looking for a career, I worked part-time as a caregiver for elderly, supporting them with activities of daily living. I oftentimes witnessed the neglect that individuals faced when care was unable to show up for days at a time. And I truly do not want anyone to experience the suffering that my papa and others have faced from a lack of healthcare support. So I eventually found a job as the head of HR for a home care agency. I then recruited over 200 nursing assistants into the workforce, but it did not come easily. I have unforgettable memories of the struggles we faced when hiring these essential workers. And like many other care facilities, our efforts just weren't good enough. I begged our administrator to approve other methods to better source qualified candidates, but he insisted our ways were fine. The company ended up losing many clients due to limited staff, and I personally felt like a failure for not better serving the people. So I was determined to find a solution, and if there wasn't one, I was going to create it. So I conducted field research at a certified nursing assistant school to learn more about the student's journey from classroom to career. And being the type A person that I am, I found many areas that could be improved to support the student's transition. And our co-founder and CTO had a direct client relationship with the school that I was researching, and we teamed up to build Transition. And at Transition, we strive to address the widespread shortage of essential healthcare support professionals by bridging the gap between allied health training schools and employers to optimize student outcomes. And we envision better support for students leading to better support for patients.
Awesome. Amazing story. Wow, I didn't know you were a former athlete and stuff. So no, that's awesome. Well, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely. You can visit our website at jointransition.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Kayla Wright-Jackson.
Awesome. Cool. Well, next up, let's kick it over to Kameron. Kameron, how'd you get here?
Man, so in 2018, I was working in staffing in downtown Chicago. I'd been a recruiter and worked my way up to be director of a division. And I had promised myself when I was 30, I'm 33 right now, but I promised myself when I was 30, I was going to jump in, do something entrepreneurial. I'd always wanted to be, I'd had a couple businesses in college. So the choice that I made was to quit my dream job, really, and just jump into something. And at the time, there was the hemp kind of green rush that was coming on. They had just passed the 2018 hemp bill. And my co-founder, who's also my brother-in-law, we decided to start driving to Kentucky and researching this whole hemp culture, CBD, everything that goes along with it. We started commercializing products, rolling out a brand, getting it into Chicago, and then we started selling. And we were selling grassroots kind of at Chicago festivals. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a Chicago summer festival, but hundreds of thousands of people, stage on this side of the street. It's 10 blocks long. So we would get booths, and we would get a 10 by 10 booth, and my brother-in-law and I would sell our products out of this booth every single weekend, like while we were still working our full-time jobs. And the first few weekends, it was like, man, we made 10 grand. Then we started making like 25, 30 grand. Then we started getting 2 locations on the same weekend, and I would work one and he would work the other. And we would make like 50 or 60 grand. It was crazy what was going on. Then we started hiring teams. It was just this amazing business we had created kind of like as hobbyists kind of on the side. And we decided to actually dive in and go full time. And right when that happened, COVID hit. And so Dave and I were forced to figure out what we were going to do next. Our big revenue generator was going to these events every single weekend, getting teams of people to sell our products. And that was like our thing. And we couldn't do that anymore when COVID hit. And this was March of 2020 or so. So we had some good traction. We had a website that we had rolled up, but we were really making most of our revenue from these events. And so Dave and I looked at each other probably March of 2020. We're like, we need to win on the internet. So we decided to get an agency, went on the internet. Long story short, because this is pre-Packdash, we were getting to 3,000 to 5,000 orders per month online, and we were using a 3PL called ShipBob out of Chicago. We had a kitchen. We were sending things back and forth. We were being the best client ever. And as COVID got worse, they were prioritizing things like PPP. They were prioritizing just other larger clients of the 3PL. And so our shipments were taking 2 weeks to get to customers. We had a 77% accuracy. So if you order something on my website, almost a 1 in 4 chance it's not what you ordered from me. It's another company's product. I mean, I had horror stories. I had literally a customer called me and said, Kameron, you sent me a sex toy. And I said, no, I did not. That was my 3PL. But I take full responsibility for those things because it's my brand. So it got to the point where we had to find a solution. This was midsummer of 2020. I think it was late July, right around 4th of July. And we had invoices that were like $80,000 a month that no one could explain at ShipBob. Couldn't get anybody on the phone. We had inaccuracy issues. They were losing our stuff. They would lose like $30,000 or $40,000 of product per month and just say, whoa, it's me. Where did it go? And so I, as an entrepreneur, were pulling my hair out, having no control over the situation. And so Dave and I looked at each other, my co-founder and I, and we decided we needed to either bring it in-house or find another solution. We called every other 3PL across America that would take our phone call. And everyone told us until we got to 20,000 orders a month, until we got to XYZ velocity, until we were doing, this type of retail volume, they wouldn't even service us, let alone answer the phone calls if we were in there to be serviced. And so I was pretty much forced to start my own internal fulfillment. And because I had been so abused as an e-commerce entrepreneur, Dave and I built this completely backwards. We built it so that we were truly building it to service a client like ourselves, someone who wants attention, someone who wants high accuracy, someone who wants cost effectiveness. I could go on for hours, but we couldn't find that anywhere, so we had to build it. And then we told everyone the story: investors, other entrepreneurs, people in incubators that we were in, and every other person we talked to that was kind of in this realm that we were in either said, I'm at ShipBob or someone similar and I'm having the same experience, or this is a wonderful idea. I know people that can move into you right away. So I think it was November, December of 2020. We had branded ourselves. We put a website together, and we started actually marketing ourselves with a one-pager, just kind of around Chicago to different people. And by the end of 2020, we had 10 clients. We'd finished the year with, I think, close to 60,000 shipments for ourselves and others. And then we started raising money. We had a really, really solid 2021. We brought on 32 clients, I think, in 2021. Today, we're at 47 clients and counting. And just amazing things are going on. I never thought I'd be a 3PL entrepreneur, but now we've got Chicago location. We've got a Tucson, Arizona location. I kind of go back and forth between the two. We've got 30,000 square feet. We have everything from diapers to nail polish to shoes, apparel, my CBD company, 7 other CBD companies, a lot of trinket stuff. We actually just landed our first Fortune 100 client. So we're pretty excited about that. But yeah, we are, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you are looking for a 3PL built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs to service you the way you want as a small, medium-sized business, and you're not doing 20,000 orders per month, which is a ton of businesses, and you want to connect to eBay, Amazon, Etsy, any marketplace under the sun. I mean, I run QVC campaigns, Good Morning America campaigns for my client. If you want to sell something online, call me because I'll help you do it. And I won't say no. Like if you say I want to sell on Walmart.com and Amazon and on my website at the same time out of the same warehouse, that's what we do for our clients at a very low threshold. So if you need to get in contact with me, Kameron at Packdash.com. It's also www.packdash.com. Those go straight to me. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help you out any way I can.
So a few things. One, I think you're in the running for COVID pivot. I love it. I love the traction before COVID. I love the COVID after pivot. And one thing that really struck me is how quickly you made the pivot. That's amazing, man. And then also I think you may you're in the running for like best like title here, Win the Internet. So will come up soon. Cool. There it is. Well, let's kick it over to our next awesome or dope founder. I want to kick it over to Reva. Let's hear the story. How'd you get here?
Thanks, Joey. So since I want to say 2003, I've worked across digital media, digital marketing, and digital learning. And I've spent the past decade laser focused on the digital learning space, educational technology, working across K-12, higher education, and workplace learning. I was building corporate universities, essentially. I was working for a global digital marketing agency back in 2016. And I felt like I had pretty much accomplished all I could in that particular role. I wanted to have a bigger impact on the world. I loved building product, I discovered through that experience. And having been in ed tech for as many years, I knew a lot of educators. So I went to them and I asked, like, what are the big, hairy challenges in K-12 education? And credit recovery, access to resources, and health education kept coming up. And the health education piece just really stood out to me. Health illiteracy sits at the core of society's most systemic challenges, from our inefficient healthcare system to our ongoing mental health crisis that's been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. But at the same time, schools and districts, many of them, they lack the capacity, they lack the resources to provide quality health education and to provide the quantity of health education that's recommended by the Centers for Disease Control. So nationally, we actually have expectations coming from the CDC that call for 80 hours of health instruction per student per year in grades 3 to 12. But on average, students are receiving fewer than 10 hours of health instruction every year. And that's a lot less than the 40 to 50 that you need to actually affect some type of behavioral change. And there's a study out there that actually estimates the annual economic impact of this at up to 3.6 trillion US dollars. So there's a huge area of opportunity here for improvement. It's just the perfect synergy to me in an opportunity for both income and impact. So it was something incredibly compelling to me. But the personal story behind that is that when I was a kid, I had health class, but the gym teacher, who was also the football coach, wasn't really someone that I felt comfortable discussing my sexuality, my mental health, things that I was trying to figure out at that time. And I was a very successful student athlete, but I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with just the despair of navigating our oppressive US educational system, and it failed to support my mental health, my well-being. I also witnessed the impact of health illiteracy in my own community growing up in Camden, New Jersey, where issues like excess healthcare utilization and poor self-care lead to higher mortality rates, higher healthcare costs. And then I was a college track and field athlete. And at that time, I learned about the connection between nutrition and athletic performance. And then I learned personally that by maintaining a well-balanced diet, I was able to immediately increase my athletic performance. But it would take years and years later until I actually learned how to manage and nurture all dimensions of my well-being, right? And so I realized that we just have a system in which people leave grade school with unanswered questions, with unresolved anxieties about so many dimensions of their health. And that just it sits at the foundation, at the core really of so many of society's challenges. And so for me, it was just a way getting into this health space and trying to figure out how to transform health education in the United States as a way of addressing any and everything that I've ever felt powerless to address, that I think is a societal ill, because it all really does come back to our values and perceptions around health. So I created LessonBee essentially just to shorten that learning curve, right? So that young people leave grade school with the knowledge, skills, and values to make healthy choices for themselves and for their communities. And we were established in November of 2018. We're already transforming health outcomes in charter schools and public schools and networks and districts all over the country. We're venture-backed. obviously excitingly backed by Google now, alongside another probably 20 or 21 investors. And we're hiring. So that's going to be one of my asks at the end. We're looking for amazing talent to come join our organization and support our mission. And I can personally be reached across all socials at Reva McPollom. I changed that recently just to make it straightforward. And LessonBee, similarly, LessonBee across all socials.
Nice. I mean, actually, how about this? I mean, you want to go ahead and just make the ask now, or I mean, for on the hiring part?
Sure. So a lot of focus on sales and marketing and customer success right now. And you may be aware a lot of teachers are transitioning out of the profession, entering into roles in customer success. And we certainly welcome talent that have that grounding in working in classrooms. And we provide training and support. So feel free to visit our website and apply for a role.
There it is. I mean, one time again for former athletes and stuff. I love it. So let's go to Erin next. I mean, Erin, you know the drill at this point. You know, how'd you get here?
Thanks so much, Joey. And this isn't a part of my origin story, but I also played volleyball. So maybe we should get a little volleyball group together at the end of this in high school. But I'm Erin, again, the founder and CEO of AllSpring. And in the past 6 months, we've helped 150 employees from companies like Essence and the KIPP Foundation feel more confident about their career along the way, and generated almost $200,000 doing so. But that journey was really difficult and took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get here. And I really see my origin starting with my family. I come from a lineage of problem solvers. My grandfather was a Baptist pastor in Spring Lake, North Carolina, a very small town, and he saw all of these veterans coming home from the Vietnam War and not having a place to live. So he took it upon himself to literally build houses for these soldiers to live in. My mother is a software engineer and saw how difficult it was for FEMA to actually go through all of the records from Hurricane Katrina. And so she started a company and built a case management system to help make that process way more efficient. And for me, I was leading employee development at Pinterest, and I've always been really passionate about how do we help people better balance purpose and paycheck. And I was in the middle of trying to cobble together integration between a HRIS system and an LMS system and a vendor document, and said, this is actually not helping employees like meet moments that matter to them. At the same time, I'm taking calls with friends or even Pinterest employees about how they're feeling really isolated and frustrated, trying to figure out what they want to do, who they want to be. There's this ton of pressure on, this hustle culture and how hard they're working. But one person said, like, literally my whole team is quitting because they're tired of figuring out what they need to do on their own and just like making decisions on a whim. And they just think taking a year sabbatical is going to help. And I said, this is a place where I really care about how to help people live more fulfilling lives. I mean, we spend at least 47% of our lives at work, oftentimes more. Like, why aren't we investing in being happy there? And so I spent the first 2 months of building AllSpring interviewing almost 200 different people on what their career journeys were, what they cared about, what they want, and found that people really fell into these 4 groups. They're either missing stimulation at work. If they weren't learning, they weren't growing. They were missing direction. There's someone who they're thinking, maybe I just take this new SQL course and that'll help me get promoted, but I'm not sure because I'm scared to tell my manager that I even want to take this course because maybe they think I want to quit. Or they're missing motivation because they're feeling really burnt out and they don't even know where to start to get out of the hole of burnout. Or they're just missing connection in general. And they're saying, my job pays me well, but I really just care about golfing on the weekends. So as long as they can pay for that hobby, I'm good. But they're all really looking for some type of personalized guidance to help them get to the next stage. And so we started with saying, okay, great. Everyone, the theme we heard was, people just want to talk to people who look like them. So let's do that. So we started matching individual employees with really certified, high quality career coaches that look like them. And the funny moment was then they weren't actually signing up. They weren't meeting with these coaches. They weren't there was only like a really small set of power users that would actually take advantage of the solution when we offered it to organizations. But what they were using was we made these mini homework assignments and modules that helped them uncover and unearth different aspects of their job and their career. And we said, oh, this is actually what people are looking for. So we need to completely change our model, rethink how we think about coaching, and build some type of bite-sized solution that can actually get people support in the moments that matter to them. And that's really where what AllSpring is today came to be, where we're now saying, oh, we can put a career coach and this type of career support in every employee's pocket. And I fundamentally believe that as we're able to empower employees to be more thoughtful and proactive about their career, we have a society that is, more emotionally balanced. They're not going through these really serious spouts of depression because of their job, and they're able to really take control and ownership over their career. So every day I'm just really excited to get one step closer to my personal mission of helping people balance purpose and paycheck. We're currently fundraising, and you can find me, Erin Rowe, on LinkedIn, and try allspring.com for AllSpring.
Awesome. Love it. Love the former athlete and the happy. So actually, perfect transition. Going to kick it over to April.
Awesome. Thanks, Joy. And thanks, everyone. Again, my name is April Johnson, co-founder and CEO of Happied. And how did I get here? So I'm going to take a couple steps back as well and start where I'm from, which is Inglewood, California. I actually have always been surrounded by entrepreneurs. And it's something that I didn't realize growing up. My mom was an attorney, but also an entrepreneur. She had a clothing store in LA that she ran, a beauty shop in LA that she ran. My aunt, who also raised me, worked at the beauty shop. So I never knew the traditional kind of 9 to 5, because my mom was she was a lawyer, but she was a solo practitioner. So she had all this freedom of her time, very much just if she saw something she wanted to do, she did it. And that same just mindset kind of resonated with me throughout my whole life. So I started my first business actually right out of college. I went to UCLA and started this tutoring gig economy business back then, where we hired college students to tutor in home tutoring throughout Los Angeles. And we were competing with the Kaplan and the Sylvan, but we had this model. We had this model where we basically were undercutting Kaplan and Sylvan, and we were doing really well, had this thing, didn't know what we had going. We had about 30 tutors on our team at the time, but knew nothing about the startup ecosystem, about what it meant to scale through technology, about what it meant to raise capital, and just kind of got a little burnt out with it. And so I always wanted to be a lawyer because my mom was also a lawyer, so moved to DC for law school, which is how I got to DC, where I am now. And actually had the original idea for Happied back when I was in law school. This time it was all about just my passion for connecting people and communities to incredible experiences that resonate with them. I've always been this experience fanatic. How can we have the best time for these people that are going to be here? I'm very much an empath. And if I go to an event and I see someone who's sitting on the side, feeling like they can't be included, that really has always bothered me. So I figured, okay, how do we build something that connects people with these experiences where they can really feel empowered? And ended up starting another version of Happied back in 2018, which was consumer focused. And so really connecting consumers to in-person experiences at restaurants and bars, starting with specifically happy hours. So started this while I was still working at the firm, went part-time at the firm, trying to figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work. And it got a good bit of traction for Happied back in 2018, ran some pilots on paid. And so decided to quit my job in July of 2018. Did not have enough savings as I probably should have had looking back on it, but I was I just got to go for it. I've always felt life is short, it's better to try and fail than to have never tried it all. So quit my job in 2018, went to build this mobile app platform that was going to be connecting individuals to, again, these experiences. Launched the actual mobile app in April of 2019. And made some bad decisions in the way that we launched that mobile app. So we had a lot of consumer interest on the platform. We had also signed restaurants and bars onto the platform. Similar, like if you've ever seen like those little things that says like we're on Yelp, we had like little stickers all over DC for restaurants that were on Happied. So we're really like pounding the pavement on the consumer and the restaurant and bar sign up side, but our technology behind the scenes was subpar. And so what happened is we were doing all of this work to get folks signed up to the platform, but it wasn't delivering on what it was supposed to do. So our retention rate was pretty poor. So had to let go of a developer who was like very high like on the team. So went into 2020 with a platform, thousands of users, no developer, no clue how to like fix it. It was in such bad shape that I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Also in 2019, lost all my money at this time because I was paying for the development of the platform out of pocket. So lost all my savings, literally went to nothing. And I share this story because I think a lot of times when we talk about entrepreneurship and startup life, we kind of skip over the lows. And it was a low. I went from being a corporate attorney, making a lot of money, to literally having about $300 in my checking account and being like, how did I get here? What do I do now? And so had to start freelancing, started doing freelance marketing. My law firm called back in like February of 2020 and was like, hey, do you want to do some contract work? I was like, this is perfect timing because I need this. And then in March of 2020, COVID hit. So while we were figuring out what do we do with our mobile app platform, at the same time, we had to basically let it go because there was no such thing as going to restaurants and bars or going to these experiences. And so had to pivot relatively quickly. And so at the time, we realized like what we do best is like connecting and like building these experiences. And so decided that we were going to build them online. And so started hosting and building online experiences for that same consumer network that we built through the mobile app, and did it really, really well. And so that took off immediately, where we were like charging for them. They were selling out week after week. And then we realized, well, if we're doing this for consumers and it's going so well, what are corporates like? What are businesses doing for their teams? Like, I know that they can't be having this much fun. And at the same time, while I was still at the firm doing contract work, I could see like what was happening, what the firm was doing. And I just realized that people were really struggling with how to keep their teams engaged in this changing like economy. And so quickly decided we're going to pivot again. And instead of doing these consumer experiences, we're going to pivot to B2B. And so we did that. That took off really well. Immediately got big customers, Google, Disney, Match.com. There was just such this need. And so we grew really quickly, going from 2020 with a little over 200,000 in revenue to 2021 with over $1 million in revenue. And then we had to figure out, well, how do we scale, right? We knew we had this thing. We knew we were doing something really important in connecting these teams and in really relieving this burden, but didn't know how to scale. And so had to take a step back and really think deeply about, again, the problem that we were solving. At the same time, the COVID pandemic was ending. Well, not ending, but alleviating. And so people were going back to in-person. So we had to figure out, well, how do we scale our model that we've done so well back to in-person like we were doing pre-COVID? We went through the Techstars Accelerator, the Minnesota Twins Accelerator, which was like absolutely pivotal in helping us figure out our scale and fundraising strategy. We also knew we needed to fundraise. And so from there, again, taking stock of that problem, really digging into our mission, really identified that at the core, what we were solving was taking that burden of figuring out how do you engage your teams off of the corporate, right? And we realized that this was happening across organizations of all sizes, of all industries, is that when it came time to team engagement, it was often this burden that was tasked to someone who didn't know what they were doing. They had to pull together the pieces, digging into event tech and how things were done. It was something that just hasn't been touched, right? And so from there came to our full service solution of Happied, which we just launched a few months ago. Which is essentially a tool that streamlines all aspects of your team engagement, client development, community engagement through your events. So ideation, booking, management, feedback. So really diving in and solving a solution. And what I really love about Happied is that every single company has events, and almost every company has a hard time with producing these events for their teams, their clients, their communities. And so Happied is there to essentially be your partner for those events.
There it is. So a few things. One, again, running for Pivot of the Year, COVID Pivot of the Year. The resilience, just like Erin and a few others. I mean, the history in your family of entrepreneurship and problem solving. I think there's a lot there too. And also as a former, so my original startup was in the event space as well. Definitely have a lot of respect for it, for what you've done and stuff like that. So amazing. And also my wife's a lawyer. I used to be in DC. So yeah, a lot of connection points, I think, between a lot of folks here, and also obviously people watching. So finally though, April, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, April Johnson. Visit happied.co. And if your team is struggling with engagement, hit us up. We work with teams of all sizes, online, in-person, hybrid. Metaverse has been super popular. We do metaverse events through our platform. So let us know if you're looking to engage your team.
Awesome. I told you. You're in for a treat. Some dope founders with some dope stories. And you got a treat, right? So my thing is, there's an ask. I'm going to throw this up here just so you all can learn a little bit more about the founders. But my ask is simple. Figure out a way to either become a customer or a user of these awesome entrepreneurs, a potential investor, or a partner, right? Or maybe some media sources that want to tell their story, want to amplify their story, right? You can spend a little bit of time doing that. It's what we call, again, being intentionally good. Now, maybe you can't do any of those things, but I'm willing to bet that you have someone in your network that can. Again, either be a customer or a user, an investor, tell their story, or become a partner. So I'd like for you to spend at least 30 minutes thinking about how you can support these amazing entrepreneurs in their journey, right? Again, this is what we call being intentionally good. Now, if you can do that, once a month for 30 minutes, do that over 6 months. I think it turns into a habit, right? And then when you get some of your network to do it, it turns into a culture, right? And then eventually there's a behavior in your network about being intentionally good. That's how we start to close the relationship gap for not only these amazing entrepreneurs, but also for, I think, all the other ones out there as well. This is what Goodie Nation is really all about. So you can learn a little bit more about them. They put out their website and ways to get in contact. But again, this link here at the bottom of the screen is where you can learn even more about them and the other recipients of the third Google for Startups Black Founders Fund, and also the other recipients from the first two funds from Google for Startups as well. So please, again, consider being intentionally good. And if you can't do anything else, simply share their story, share this episode, share their website or something like that, or maybe their Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever profile on whatever platform you're currently on, right? If you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music or something like that, please consider sharing them online. You can at least do that, right? You can at least do that. So this has been another wonderful episode of Prequel, Origin Stories and Inflection Points, a special edition for the third Google for Startups Black Founders Fund. Go out there and outwork yesterday and stay magnetic, y'all. I'm Joey Womack.